A couple of years ago, just before I turned 17, something happened to me that I still struggle to understand. It was so strange, so terrifying, that even now a part of me refuses to believe it was real. Yet every time I close my eyes, I can still see it, the firelight, the shadows, the screams. Maybe by telling you, you can judge for yourself whether it was real or just some nightmare that clung to me. It all began when my parents told us we were going to visit Aunt Lupe and Uncle Manuel, my father's older brother, the following weekend. They lived on a ranch near Jalapa, Veracruz. Neither my sister nor I had met them before. We only knew their faces from the old, fading photographs my father sometimes showed us. Because the family lived so far away, visits were rare. At first, I wasn't happy about the trip. I had soccer training that Saturday morning, and in the afternoon I had plans with my boyfriend. But my parents were excited, and I could tell this visit meant a lot to them, so reluctantly I canceled my plans. That weekend came quickly. We loaded our suitcases into the car and began the long drive toward the hills. The ranch was perched on a slope, and to get there we had to take a narrow yellow dirt road that twisted dangerously along the edge of a ravine. Below, the river shimmered silver in the sunlight, and though the view was breathtaking, every curve of the road made me grip the seat tighter. Finally, we arrived, pulling up in front of the ranch house. The moment we parked, my uncles came out to greet us. Aunt Lupe was a short woman with soft features and gray hair that framed her kind smile. She hugged us warmly, as if she'd known us forever. Uncle Manuel, by contrast, was tall and serious. Despite his 70 years, he stood strong and imposing, his eyes sharp. He gave us a quick, almost distracted hug, then stepped back. That afternoon passed in chatter. My parents caught up with my aunt and uncle, trading stories, while my sister and I wandered around before helping to collect firewood for a bonfire. By nightfall, we all sat around the fire outside. Aunt Lupe served champurrado in clay mugs, and for a while everything felt calm, almost magical. But then long, distant howls drifted from the hills surrounding the ranch. The sound made the hairs on my arms rise. My uncle immediately shifted in his seat, his body tense. The howls continued, echoing through the night, then faded into silence. My father laughed nervously, saying it was probably just a coyote or a wolf, but Uncle Manuel stood, disappeared into the house, and returned with a rifle slung across his shoulder. His face was grim. He muttered something about revenge. We exchanged confused glances. Revenge? Against what? He didn't explain. Instead, he walked toward the corrals, then vanished into the fields behind the house. That was when Aunt Lupe's smile faded. She leaned closer and whispered that the howls belonged to a Nahual, a shapeshifter of legend. She explained that Manuel had faced it before, but it always escaped, taking an animal with it. A few weeks earlier, it had tried to break into their house. When it failed, it stole a sheep and tore apart part of the cornfield. For Manuel, this was no longer about superstition. It was personal. My parents scoffed, insisting these were just stories to scare children. But then Manuel returned, his face colder than ever. "Inside," he ordered. We didn't argue. We hurried into the house, leaving the bonfire still burning outside. My aunt guided us to the room we'd sleep in, but before we could settle, noises erupted from the corrals, snarls, the frantic bleating of animals, curses shouted into the night.
Gunshots cracked. The walls shook with the sound. We ran to the living room and found my father stumbling in, dragging his leg, blood staining his pants. My sister and I helped him to a chair while Aunt Lupe poured mezcal over the wound. He screamed, then fainted. My mother, pale with panic, begged for a doctor. Lupe explained the nearest one was in town. Without wasting a second, my mother and sister half-carried him to the car. As they drove off, the sound of gunfire returned, followed by an inhuman scream that froze my blood. That was when I remembered Uncle Manuel. He was still out there. I turned to run, but Aunt Lupe appeared, clutching a shotgun. Her hands shook, yet her eyes burned with determination. I snatched the gun from her before she could follow and sprinted toward the corrals. The stench hit me first, rotting flesh and coppery blood. In the darkness, I slipped and fell, my hand landing in something wet. I turned on my phone's flashlight. Horror surged through me. A mutilated animal lay sprawled across the ground, its insides glistening, blood everywhere. Gagging, I stumbled outside and vomited, but before I could recover, I heard Manuel's scream from the cornfields. I ran, pushing through the stalks, calling for him. Silence answered, then low guttural grunts. My heart hammered so loudly it felt like my chest would split open. Finally, the corn parted, and I froze. There it was. A monstrous creature loomed over my uncle, pinning him down. Its body resembled a wolf, but grotesquely wrong. Horns jutted from its furry back. Its hind legs were thin, goat-like, while its claws sunk deep into Manuel's flesh. When its face turned toward me, my breath died in my throat. It was almost human. Almost. Its mouth was an elongated snout, yellow fangs dripping, and its eyes, burning, demonic red, locked onto mine. I had never felt so helpless. I didn't even know how to use the shotgun. The creature seemed to sense this, its lips curling in a mocking grin before it turned back to Manuel. Something inside me snapped. I gripped the shotgun by the barrel with both hands, lifted it high above my head, and swung with every ounce of strength I had. The crack of impact rang out. The beast reared onto its hind legs, towering above me, blood streaming down its snarling face. My head barely reached its chest. It stared at me once last time, snorted violently, and then melted into the cornfields. I dropped to my knees beside Manuel. He was alive, groaning, his shirt soaked with blood. I half-carried, half-dragged him back toward the house. At the door, Aunt Lupe appeared with a machete, her face pale but fierce. Together, we hauled him inside. My hands and clothes were drenched in blood, though I hadn't realized it until then. While I checked myself in a daze, Lupe cleaned Manuel's wounds with mezcal, then pressed herbs and aloe into them before stitching him up. Even in pain, Manuel remained stoic, his teeth clenched. Afterwards, he motioned me closer, showing me how to remove the safety from the shotgun, where to aim, and how to reload. He thanked me, his voice steady despite everything. He promised next time he would teach me properly. Not long after, the car returned. My father was injured, but stable. Stitches, bandages, nothing life-threatening. My sister and I helped him inside. When he saw Manuel, he asked if he was all right. Manuel nodded, then looked down and whispered an apology for endangering all of us. The very next day, we left so my father could receive proper care. But the following year, when we returned, Manuel kept his word. He taught me to shoot. And sometimes, when I hold a rifle and feel its weight in my hands, I still see those burning red eyes staring at me through the corn. I still wonder if it was real, or if some horrors are simply too old and too powerful to ever die.